Welcome back to another episode of 40 Facts About the 40K Universe. I am your host, Gershwan, and you are watching One Mind Syndicate. Today we continue talking about the Imperium as we get into a 30K story. We're going to be talking about a world that's very, very resilient and stood up for itself. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. We post Warhammer 40K content every single day. And of course, if you have any suggestions, just comment down below. But with that said, let's get into 40 facts on the Manachean Commonwealth. The Manachean Commonwealth is a conglomerate of advanced and populated worlds that lie at the border of both the Segmentum Obscurus and the Ultima Segmentum. The Manachean system, which lies at the heart of the Commonwealth, which has given its name to the surrounding subsector, and likely founded during mankind's dark age of technology. The three worlds of Manachia survived the horrors of the Old Night relatively intact. Its technology still advanced and its disciplined population numbering in the hundreds of millions. However, somewhere during the Age of Strife, the system also fell prey to the Mitu conglomerate, a Xeno empire of great strength which ruled over much of the Coronid Deeps. The Mitu were a cabal of several psychically empowered Xeno species, believed to have evolved from the common stock. Technologically advanced and warp-capable, their pocket empire soon grew to subjugate other worlds from whom they periodically demanded a culling of the population, a tribute of flesh to provide them. It was believed with the basic components to construct their technologies. Although enjoying a semblance of freedom and self-governance, which made their rule less harsh than the brutal slavery maintained by Orcs or Eldar, the Mitu controlled the system entirely, tracking down and rooting out any new psychers, and forbidding any attempts at spaceflight. It is unclear for how many standard decades or even centuries the worlds of the future Manachean Commonwealth suffered under that regime. But the overlordship of this vile breed of Xenos was brought to an end by the armies of the Great Crusade. The war the Imperium would fight to end the Mitu conglomerate would be a protracted and bloody one, essentially fought as a series of brutal, close-quarter boarding engagements in the void, interspersed with sudden and world-shattering planetary assaults on both sides. This campaign would mobilize no less than several expeditionary fleets and 3 legions of the Legionis Astartes, amongst them the Imperial Fist of the Primarch Rogel Dorn, and hundreds of cohorts of Solar Auxilia. Most of the worlds of the conglomerate would eventually be purged by Exterminatus. But for the human-populated Manachia system, the Imperium would fight hard. For the masses who had lived so long under the oppression of inhuman intelligence and the constant threat of being harvested or culled, Imperial compliance was taken up with open arms. Due to its long-standing ties and common history, the 3 inhabited worlds of Manachia system were established as a commonwealth under the authority of a single Imperial commander. The seat of power and governance would be on Manachia, at Hive Ilium, where the noble partitions of House Beckett would act as Lord Protectors of the Manachean Commonwealth. Here, from the Palace of Light, as it would soon be called, the vast wealth and manpower of the Commonwealth would labor for the Imperium of Man, quickly becoming a powerhouse of military and industrial activity. Manachia prospered, serving as a linchpin of commerce and trade for the entire region. This prominence caused the Commonwealth to become a regional capital of the entire subsector. At the dawn of the 31st millennium, Manachia was a shining beacon of imperial civilization in the northern stellar reaches of the Imperium, a powerful, autonomous pocket empire that would utterly be loyal to the liberators of the Great Crusade, and concentrated much of the military might of the Imperium in this region of space. As a sizable and technologically advanced domain, the Manachean Commonwealth would muster a very large military force for its own defense. This strength was again concentrated around 2 major star systems of the subsector, the Commonwealth itself and the naval base located at Port Maul. Both were in their own right strongholds of military might that would resist major incursions of Xenos. It is likely that if the enemy had not been in an Astarte, the traitor rampage would be stopped at Manachia. In fact, few regions outside the heartland of the Segmentum Solar could claim to be as well protected as the Manachean Commonwealth. At the dawn of the 31st millennium, the Commonwealth was a bulwark of military might. charged with protection of much of the segmentum surrounding it, and constituting undoubtedly the single most powerful faction inside the Coronid Deeps. As a standard peacekeeping and rapid response force, Port Maul and the Manachean system could field no less than 93 Solar Auxilia cohorts, which amount to a notional strength of some 3,860,000 fully armed, equipped, and disciplined fighters, equipped with the highest standards of the Imperium's human soldiery. As Solar Auxilia, they were trained and experienced both in void combat and planetary defense operations, and represented a significant military force, even set against the might of the fearsome Legiones Astartes. Among these Solar Auxilia cohorts also figured some elite formations, such as the 905th cohort, the Ash Scorpions, recruited from the savage worlds of Lathe. Alongside this elite army, the worlds of the Manachean Commonwealth were also intended to raise their own planetary defense militia. In truth, the Commonwealth Emergency Defense Planning had been specially designed to quickly raise, equip, and muster tens of millions of militiamen. Such was the strength and accuracy of their planning that even the full mobilization of a militia would have no effect on the massive industrial output of the subsector. The continued productivity of its citizens had also empowered the Commonwealth to stockpile a considerable quantity of war materials, making the Commonwealth's troops one of the very best equipped fighting forces in the entire Imperium. In case of more serious menaces, the Commonwealth could also count on the limited presence of some members of the Legiones Astartes, the Imperial Fists. While refusing to submit themselves to the authority of the mere human commanders, the Imperial Fist had doubtlessly heavily improved Manachean's defenses, dispatching several advisors to training regiments and lending their experiences in counter-siege warfare to the Commonwealth's authority, as to better improve existing fortifications and tactical doctrines in case of attack. The troops raised from the Manachean system typically wear the Commonwealth's livery, which consists of blue and yellow hues that are hallmarks of the Ultima Segmentum's Armada Imperialis. As a badge of origin, the Solar Auxilia cohorts and the Armada detachments drawn from the Commonwealth bear the brazen bull of Manachean, except for those units that distinguished themselves to the degree that they were attributed their own heraldry. For the many armored cohorts and sub-cohorts the Commonwealth maintained, each vehicle's flank was adorned with colored stripes in the colors of the Commonwealth, alongside the gray-white drap commonly worn by vehicles attached to the Solar Auxilia. Due to the extreme interaction between the Solar Auxilia cohorts drawn from Manachean and those fleet elements stationed on Port Maul, it was fairly common to see units of Port Maul and the Ultima Segmentum Armada wearing the same colors. As a vital and highly industrialized star system, it was clear that the Manachean Commonwealth could sooner or later come under attack by the renegade War Master Horus's troops. However, in contrast to the more fractious Cyclops cluster, the worlds of the Manachean Commonwealth were both better protected and more powerful. On one hand, the proximity between the Manachean system and Port Maul meant that the military and naval might possessed by these two worlds would readily be available to support each other, and thus possess a threat to the War Master. On the other hand, the industrial and repair facilities of Port Maul's installations constituted an ideal stepping stone for Horus's march to Terra. The Cyclops cluster, Horus's armies had benefited from the element of surprise. This would not be the case at Manachean, or indeed Port Maul, as several loyalist survivors, escapees from the massacre of Isfahan V, had already spread the word of Horus's victory. Worst yet for the traitors, Port Maul was already rallying every available force to engage Horus's own war fleet. Fortunately for the traitors, a large portion of its fleet was already engaged elsewhere in a protracted and bloody battle against an Orc space hulk. Other squadrons had also been dispatched to far-flung sectors under the War Master's orders, well before the Isfahan III atrocities, and were struggling to reach their home port when Horus struck simultaneously at Manachean and Port Maul. The War Master had initially countless schemes and treacheries to ensure that when his axe fell, it would do so on the weakened and disoriented enemy. Horus's duplicity would culminate in the treachery at Port Maul, whose outcome would deliver nearly the entire subsector into his hands. Manachean's planetary governor, Lord Protector Primus Beckett, died in the ruins of the Palace of Light, among the slaughterhouse that had become his command amphitheater. Defiant to the last breath, he stood before First Captain Abaddon of the Sons of Horus, after the murder of his city, which had taken 6 solar days to die. Holding his ground, the brave Lord Protector offered the towering Astarte only words of rebuke before being casually brought down, crushed by the powered claw of the Sons of Horus First Captain, as a normal man would swat aside a fly. With the terrible fate of Hive Ilium to contemplate, the other hive cities of Manachean quickly surrendered. Manachean became the first truly autonomous domain over which flew the Eye of Horus instead of the Imperial Aquila. Yet Horus did not rule there, nor did the bleak Primarch of the Death Guard, Mortarion the Reaper. The Manachean Commonwealth fell under the sway of Talok Thorn, a line captain of the Sons of Horus, whom the Arch-Traitor had installed to rule in his absence. Claiming the title of Tyrant of Port Maul, Talok Thorn would ensure that Manachea's industry and formidable workforce, but also the naval facilities at Port Maul, would now toil for the War Master. His seat of power was established in the bloody corridors and halls of the Triumph of Reason, Battlefleet Port Maul's former flagship, now aptly renamed the Lash, for it was under the cruel eyes and whips of Horus's overseers that Manachean was now placed. The former proud and spectacular hive cities became little more than gigantic slave camps. Talok had been given his own company as well. 6 cohorts of the Solar Auxilia, drawn from the infamous Sithonian headhunters, recruited on the Sons of Horus homeworld, but judged unsuitable for Astarte conversion, to maintain order in the War Master's new dominion. And those were 40 facts on the Manachean Commonwealth. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, share it with your friends. It's really fun to hear lore behind, a pretty badass world. So they were enslaved, liberated, and then enslaved again. But it really goes to show you that not every single human, population just said, okay, yeah, the War Master's here, let's turn traitor. A lot of them fought back. And the last stand of the Imperial commander of the Manachean Commonwealth is pretty cool. He didn't take down Abaddon, but he faced down Abaddon and then was killed. But whatever. So it's really fun to hear this stuff and kind of inspirational to create some cool lore around maybe an Imperial commander or something like that. Maybe facing down in like a Chaos Space Marine, because there have been reports of Imperial Guardsmen killing Space Marines or Chaos Space Marines. They would have killed regular Space Marines. But yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any suggestions, comment down below. And thanks for everything, guys. I'll see you tomorrow. This was Gersh1 with One Mind Syndicate signing out.